Alright, what's up everybody, Mr. Mayor here, and today we are back with another Java video talking about typecasting today. Gonna be a pretty short video because there's not a whole lot to say about typecasting at this point in time, only dealing with numbers. Let's dive into it here and open up our class. I believe we went with, oh man, I forget what we went with today. Nope, that is an awkward moment. And rush hour, there we go. So typecasting is when we have our class here with our main method, our public static void main string array of args. Inside there, we're going to deal with typecasting. Now, typecasting is when we change the data type of a variable temporarily to be able to do something else with that variable. Now, if that sounds confusing, hopefully as we go through the example here, it will make a little more sense as we talk about it. In Java, we have a variable. Let's call this like num1. And this is set up to be 19. And if we have another variable, int num2, and it is set up to be 6, well, then we could divide these two variables into result. Actually, let's do double result. Double result equals num1 divided by num2. Now, if you have watched the video on int data type, you know that this will give us a whole number answer only. And if you watch the video on floating point data types, you will see that even though we are making a floating point result variable here, it's only going to add 0.0 to the end of our answer, and we are not going to get the answer that we expect when dividing 16 by 9. Let's go ahead and see this happen as we go in and divide and run the program. We get 3.0, which is an incorrect answer. In that video, we saw that, well, an easy way to do it is to just give one of these numbers a 0.0 at the end, thus making it a floating point data type, a double data type, and then the division could happen and give us a decimal answer that we expect. However, my two numbers are integers, and potentially if we start thinking about how we could combine this with user input, maybe you only want the user to give you a whole number. Maybe you want the user to give you a whole number and they give you 19 and you need it to be that whole number because later on in the program you do something with the number 19 or you do something with that user input and it needs to be a whole number for that point in time. So what we can do if we get a whole number, but for one instance, we need to kind of make it a double or a floating point. We need to make it a double or a floating point temporarily for just one instance, and then it goes right back to being a whole number, and we're okay with that. We can do typecasting. Now, to typecast a variable or any value, what you do is you put parentheses before the variable or value that you want to typecast, and then inside the parentheses, you say the data type that you want to cast that variable to. Now, it doesn't work with everything. I couldn't change this num1 to a string, let's say, or to some other type of object or reference. I couldn't make it an array or things like that. It's really to dealing with primitives that are similar. So I couldn't even make it like a Boolean. It's dealing with numbers. That's the easiest way that we're going to work with it, going from an int to a double or double down to an int, which we will see shortly here. Now, doing this indicates that num1 is going to be a double when I do this division, meaning it's not going to be the whole number 19 as an int, it's going to be 19.0 as a double. So when I would run this code, I would now get the answer that I expect, having 3 points and then a decimal remainder happening there. So that is typecasting, and I could do it on num1, I could put it on num2. It doesn't really matter how it works. Another thing that we would be able to do, so let's flip this around. Now let's go double, and let's say that our result needs to be an int. Well, I have two double numbers now. Let's do 19.0 and 6.0. It would add the 0.0 anyways, but just to keep it as clear as possible, we'll put the 0.0 there. Now, let's say I have these double numbers that need to remain double for whatever reason that I have, but the result of the division has to be an integer. So I can't do this because I have two doubles and I can't convert a double to an int. I can't store a double number, a double data type, a floating point number into an int data type variable. It's not possible to do unless I do typecasting. So the typecasting this way is a little different because if I were to do typecasting that we just saw and I were to put int up here, sure, num1 becomes an int. So instead of 19.0, it just becomes the whole number 19. However, num2 is still 6.0, which means I would get a double answer and therefore I still can't store it in my int result. So what I need to do in this case, notice we didn't do this with the double because only one needed to be double, is I need to say get the answer from this expression and turn that answer into a whole number. So what I'm telling Java here, order of operations, is I'm telling Java to do the parentheses first, get that answer, and then turn that answer into a whole number, which we can run and we can see I would just get my whole number of 3. So that's where it becomes a difference. If I'm going from double to int or int to double, you do things a little differently and you have to think through, okay, do I need to do an entire expression first before I typecast? Do I only need to typecast one number? How do I handle this? So we'll end it on this. We're actually going to go backwards a little bit to show that this wouldn't work if we did the double version. So if I just go back, so we're going backwards, and let's say that I do num1 divided by num2 first, and I say, hey, typecast this to a double, we're going to get 3.0 because it's doing the integer division first, getting the whole number of 3, and then turning that whole number of 3 into the double 3.0. So once I have done the integer division, the decimal points are gone. They never existed. So typecasting it to a double doesn't get me those decimal points back. So that's why when you're trying to go from an int to a double, usually you don't want to do the expression first, especially if it involves division. You want to do only one of them gets typecasted so division can still happen normally. When going with an int, you usually do need to do the expression first if it involves division to get that answer, then truncate it down to a whole number to be stored. There we have our typecasting video. Very short, hopefully not too confusing. You understand the basics of typecasting. Again, videos, we're not diving deep into all these things, but just to get the basic understanding, the foundation understanding here. So when we get into more advanced topics, and I mentioned things like typecasting, we have videos to go back to and we have a little bit of a reference. So until next time, everybody, have a week.